Howdy, folks. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 54, Metropolis's Most Savage Racketeers.
55.
55. Okay.
Wow, I put 54 on the notes, didn't I?
I'm reading what you wrote, and you're telling me it's wrong.
That's right. You are doing what you were supposed to do. You're like the cop in the previous issue.
I'm just doing my job.
Just doing your job. And I destroyed you. All right.
Howdy, folks. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 55, Metropolis's Most Savage Racketeers. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles and 3 yawns to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hello.
He says, eyes watering.
It really just freaking hit me, man. That's all right. I'll be all right.
All right. Well, I suggest we move ahead because we had quite a bit of banter with our Ages of Comics discussion last episode.
Yeah.
So if you guys are missing banter here, just go back one episode, listen to part of that banter, and it'll fill in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So today what we're going to do is look at Metropolis's Most Savage Racketeers, which is the first story to appear in Superman issue number 7. That's written for us by Jerry Siegel, penciled by, Joe Shuster and Wayne Boring, maybe. Joe Shuster, probably. It depends on where you look. Different people will tell you one or both Shuster and Boring, which both creators we've seen before, so either of that is possible. The inker, though, is pretty unanimously Wayne Boring.
I mean, you look at the issue, and it doesn't look like, it's not just it.
No. Unless
Joe Shuster was just throwing up some roughs, and then Wayne Boring came in and, then finished it all up. I can see that. But yeah, it was definitely not just Joe Shuster doing the finish.
Did true finishes, not just inking.
Exactly.
Superman issue 7 has a cover date of December 1940. And according to Mike's Amazing World, an actual on-sale date of September 10, 1940. So, for those of you that don't have access to the book, hold on, because here's what happened. The district attorney, George Lash, is quoted by Clark Kent to be going after gang bosses Moran, Billings, and Norton. Hey, Norton.
Mike Norton.
Later, Superman... I was going to do a impression, but I thought, no, that would
Norton!
Be kind. Later, Superman sees Lash in a drunken stupor, drugged by criminals. Investigating, he learns that Lash's wife was murdered, and Lash is the prime suspect. Convinced of Lash's innocence, Superman follows the gangsters and locates a document exonerating Lash. Good word, exonerating. Superman also brings in Nick Norton, who he suspects is the real killer. He tricks Norton into confessing his crimes to the police and framing Lash. So what'd you think?
This should be, because it's Superman going after gangsters. It's got the word racketeering in the title. This should be just one of those boring old Superman stories like we've been reading over and over and over. This was a lot of fun. This was, it looked good. Even though it was Superman versus gangsters again, I think there was something a little different going on over what we've been dealing with so far.
What grabbed me is the difference in the art. I really noticed that, and there was lots of art. There seemed to be more panels than there has been in the recent past. So there's plenty of chances to see what Shuster and whomever, Wayne Boring perhaps, were doing. And I do have to point out, we do have a Superman hanging by his hands here, not a lynching, but a hanging by his hands with a, I see fingers, let me grab this hammer, pounding on the fingers kind of response from the gangsters. So that's our first hanging Superman in I don't know, probably 10 or so stories.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while.
Been a while. So they're getting away from that. And here before too long, I'm sure they will completely, because when Superman starts to actually fly, there probably won't be a need for him to hang around. He can just levitate or whatever he does. So,
oh yeah.
And I also have to throw out a hanging Superman is not to be confused with hanging Chad.
Yes.
Chad is a completely different kind of hanger. You usually only see him hanging every 4 years. That's it.
No, I'm suddenly inspired to write about a superhero called Hanging Chad. He just hangs from ledges and listens to bad guys do bad things.
There you go. He is the superhero's stoolie. He takes this information and passes it on to whichever superhero he can find and gives them information on what's going on. The story itself was a little bit more complex, let's say, than just a lot of the standard gangster stories and stuff like that. You had the fact that, first of all, it was I want to say DA, but it was the prosecuting attorney. Is that what they called him? Which I guess is the equivalent of a DA.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
He was involved. His wife is involved. 3 different gangsters are involved. We don't know that they're necessarily part of the same quote unquote family. Maybe they're working together, but they each are representing a different group of men. So that would add a little bit of complication. I will say that they didn't fridge Lois in this story.
Nope.
This was pretty much Superman coming and going and doing stuff. So a little bit of a break, since they did kind of fridge her last story. They took a break here with this one.
Yeah, she kind of, she's there at the beginning. She's there when we meet the gangsters. She's a part of that. And from that moment on, she's just until the very end, she's just not in the story anymore.
Right. They didn't use her for any kind of leverage or anything like that. And we did mention, haven't mentioned it here yet. We mentioned it last episode. Very first panel, Clark comes up, got a good assignment for us, White.
Yeah.
Which is the introduction of who will turn out in several issues from now when they actually give the first name. This is the introduction of Perry White, who, for those Superman fans out there, will know he goes on to be the editor for a very long time.
And he was, the radio show that's going on concurrently with this has Perry White as the editor on the radio show.
Right. They'd already introduced him. So
this is another one of those characters that you, of course, associate with Superman and just assume he originally was, he originally showed up in the comics.
He's always been
find
around.
Out that, yeah. But no, he comes from the radio show. And in the last episode, when it was discovered that, when I discovered that this was Perry White, I said, I can't believe I missed that. But, of course, I just would have glossed over the fact that they referred to the editor as White. That's what I'm used to.
Or it's just the name. You didn't have to see what the name was. You just know that he was referring to the editor. Okay, and go on with the story. So yeah.
I have to point out that, where is it here? Lois calls Clark a particular name at some point in the story. They're given the assignment to go talk to the prosecuting attorney George Lash, who is apparently a big egotistical guy. Lois is not a big fan of his. And then they go out to eat, Lois and Clark, and there in the restaurant are the very 3 crime bosses that Lash has told them he's gonna send up the river. And apparently they've already printed that in the newspaper. They've already told the story. And so when they see the 3 of them over there, Lois wants Clark to go introduce her to them because he kind of knows them. And Clark doesn't want to do it. So what does she call him? A panty waist.
Panty waist. Here it is. Okay.
But waist is spelled W-I or W-A-I-S-T, as in like the elastic in the panties. not what panty waist normally means.
The panty waist. That's
So that's kind of weird. I said before we started recording tonight that there was a moment in each one of these stories that made me go kind of cringe, and that was the moment in this story.
Panty waist? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't expect that. A, in my Superman stories, and B, coming out of Lois's mouth. I mean, sure, she's called him a coward and stuff like that, not being a real man, but panty waist?
It's the late 30s, early 40s. Men, first of all, are writing this. Let's keep that in mind as well.
Yes, that's true.
We're at a female writer. I'm sure something a little bit more, a little bit higher brow could have been introduced there than panty waist to get across that point.
And the way they spell it makes me feel like it's a word, a name that maybe they just used it a lot back then, but maybe Siegel doesn't quite understand what it actually means. And so that's why it's spelled that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just one of those words that's part of the vocabulary at the time that people say all the time, and you don't really understand what it means until somebody points out it's not the waist around. It's pretty. I don't know. I found that kind of crazy. I did really quite enjoy though when he does introduce Lois to these three gangsters. Right away, they start hitting on her. And she's not having any of it. She's, right away, one of them is like, I don't know, reporters came this good looking, Lois. And her response is, since we've been introduced, you can call me Miss Lane, Mr. Norton.
Even Clark is getting in on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of them says, that's how I like them, brother. Spunky and with looks. And he says, don't we all?
Don't we all?
So, I mean, Clark is right there, man.
Yep. And then the Moran, who apparently is the tough guy of the three of them. Norton is the ladies' man. He's the suave. He's got the pencil thin mustache. He's like a Tony Stark.
He is, as the kids say, is he DeBonner?
I've never heard that before. That's the first. I think that's the first time I've ever heard
rather than debonair. He's DeBonner.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Went right over my head.
Sorry. Okay.
But they point out that, use the reporters that put the story in the paper and Moran just gets, you can quote me. Mike Moran is saying the guy's full of hot air. Get that? You can quote me. And Lois is like, we get it.
Yep. Lois is not impressed. She's not scared. At all. She's not impressed.
Yeah. It's scenes like that make me really enjoy Lois when she's used more, when she's not just used as the person that Superman has to save, because that's not her purpose at all in this issue.
No.
She's but she's
the next.
You get that Princess Leia vibe from her with scenes like that.
The next page, the top row, the middle panel. Have we seen speed lines on Superman like that before?
I don't think quite like that. No.
That seems like a lot of effort was put into that. Even the lines are even colored as the different parts of his uniform that they correspond to.
Yeah.
So that's I thought that was an interesting change. Just that, at least that one panel, that they had gone to that kind of detail.
Yeah. That's Wayne Boring. You get these guys like Jack Burnley and Wayne Boring in here, and you got some good stuff going on.
Yep. They start adding to it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I was really quite shocked when we find out that Lash's wife is dead. I didn't believe for a second that he killed her.
Oh, yeah,
of course, but I was just like, holy crap, those gangsters took it to a new level. Just got real.
And as Superman goes to investigate, though, you got to admit, it really looks bad for Dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
But there's two moments in this book that are very contradictory to each other. So when the thing that the police use as their proof that it was him, that it was Lash that did it, are the cigarette butts in the ashtray. Because they're doubled over. The way that they're squished, they're bent double. And only Lash does that. Everybody knows that only Lash does it. They make it a point to say that everybody knows that only Lash does that, so it has to be him. Yep, it's got to be him. They don't think that nothing enters her mind. Well, if everybody knows that he does it, then somebody could just as easily do it.
Right.
And then a little later, Superman, he makes a comment here at this point that there's a small piece of wood on the floor. I wonder what that has to do with anything. And we learn that it's a toothpick, and only Norton chews on them toothpicks. So that's going to put you at the scene. And Norton's like, anybody can chew on toothpicks. And I'm like, yeah, that's the same thing you could say about the cigarette butts. Right. But yet that was a closed shut case, but the toothpick, nah. I found that kind of very contradictory. I thought it was really funny. Of course, nowadays they just check the DNA on the cigarette butts and the toothpick, and boom, toothpick,
see if they match. Well, they don't match. We'll see what it does match. Yeah.
Superman, I think this is one of the first times we've seen him use his telescopic vision. We've seen him use his X-ray vision. He specifically says that he uses them both at the same time here. This is the one, right? Because he can't get into the... Yeah. He goes to where the cops are going to the crime scene, and he knows that he can't get in. He goes, I can't follow them in, but my telescopic X-ray eyesight should acquaint me with all that will occur in the house. The only thing they left, they should have also mentioned that he could hear everything they're saying as well. That would have... But yeah, the first time that both of those have been used at the same time by him. I think so, yeah. I also like when Superman comes back to Lash after he has woken up from his drugged up stupor and tells Lash that his wife has died and that he believes that he's being framed for it. Lash's response is that he's conning him and he pulls a gun on him.
Yeah, okay.
But because of his super hearing, he knows that they're talking about him on the radio, so he tunes it in real quick so he can hear the news report.
Then let's see, the next page after the news report panels. Let me get back to it. The second panel on that page, sitting there with his head leaning over on his hand.
Yeah.
He looks like Hardy of Laurel and Hardy.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
What was it? Stan Laurel and
Oliver? Is it
Oliver Hardy?
Was it Oliver Hardy?
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like him there, I thought.
They've had some really good facial expressions on that guy, because when we first meet him, previously Lois says that Lash is young, energetic, gets results, but the trouble with him is he knows it and it goes to his head. So then the first panel we see of the guy, he's got this smirk on his face, and you could just see that he thinks he's pretty cool. He thinks a lot of himself.
Yep. He's doing the cuticle check there at one point, and he's got that look on his face. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, and of course, like you said, we get Superman hanging from the ledge to hear the two gangsters talking.
Mm-hmm.
And they notice, of course, fingers on the hanging over the ledge.
Fingertips on the windowsill.
Yeah.
Shh. And the one walks over with a hammer and says, no effect.
Yeah. And then Superman, I like his reaction. He's like, well, concealment's no longer possible, so I guess I'll come in here and join you guys.
Guess we'll finish this up now. New trick, holding his hands in such a way that he reflects the bullets back at them.
Yep.
That's different.
And my immediate thought was, holy crap, he just ultimately just shot these guys down. But no, the bullets
gunned them down.
Yeah. Okay, this page has my favorite moment. So the tough guys are shooting him with the guns. He deflects the bullets, but it allows the crime bosses to run into their panic room. Basically, it's a steel box, and the door is made of steel, but it's also electrified. And Superman comes up to the door and he goes, electricity. They've thought of everything, but you didn't think of this. And this is just him kicking the door in.
Yeah, just blasting the door down.
Yeah. That was funny. I just found that very funny for some reason.
He cracks the safe open with his hands. He breaks it like an egg.
Yeah. And is it me or that last panel on that page? I would assume at this point that guy's dead. Bursting through a brick wall like that with the dude had to have taken some of that in the head.
He should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the panel before it and that panel, the manner in which he's carrying the dude does not match. Two completely different holds there that he has.
It's like he places him around his neck, but as he's crashing through the wall, he flips him around under his arm. That's really weird. That's really weird. But because at first you're like, oh, he's actually doing the fireman's carry.
Mm-hmm.
He usually just tucks him under the arm. They're thinking about it, but no, by the time he crashes through the wall, he's just got him tucked under the arm like normal. Cop using the word tarnation. Always enjoying that. What in tarnation?
That was for the radio audience reading the comic book.
And then we have another, we've seen this at least once before, where Superman tricks the bad guy into confessing by making up some evidence that doesn't actually exist.
And it worked. Dude fell for it hard.
Yeah, big time, yeah.
So, some psychosomatic things going on there with the dude.
Tells him that the bushes he was standing in was poison ivy. And so you should within the next hour, you should be getting a very bad rash on your hands. And
time will tell. And they just put him in a cell and let him stew.
And that guy freaks out, man. I need to see a doctor. So maybe he's a hypochondriac, but he really just know, man. Once he implanted that idea in his brain that he's going to get poison ivy on his hands, that's mind over matter. And then it's over.
Yep. That's it. He confesses, and that's it. Clever enough to trick a confession out of Norton. So Lois is siding with Superman.
Yeah. That final page, 1, 2, 3, fourth panel, where we see where Norton is yelling through the bars, give me some medicine, blah, blah, my hands are itching. The cop standing at the door looks like John Candy.
Okay. Yeah. I see that. Which is absolutely impossible because Candy wasn't alive then. So,
but I found that kind of interesting. And then I like how, when he's yelling, "Get me some medicine, my hands are itching terribly," and the officer tells him, "Before you get treatment, come clean. Did you kill Mrs. Lash?" "Yes, I did it."
Yeah, really.
Sounds like coercion to me, but whatever. I don't think that confession would. I don't think that confession would stand up in court. I think a good lawyer would be able to throw that out.
I also think a good lawyer would be able to tell you that, well, itching hands is not enough of a punishment to get somebody to confess to murder either. So,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, you're going to go away for a good long time if you keep your mouth shut.
Yeah,
your hands are itching that badly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Our gangsters of today are made of sterner stuff, I'll just say.
I guess so. Evidently, Superman subjected you to some applied psychology.
I don't think Al Capone would be announcing what he's done because his hands itch.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Al Capone, he was the one that had gungus fungus of the crotch, ultimately, I think, is what killed him, and he still didn't admit to anything he did. So
I can only assume that Norton has never had anything remotely like poison ivy in his life because his imagination really made it into something,
I guess,
that it wasn't.
I don't know.
He's willing to confess to killing a woman just to get some medicine to put on, just for some calamine lotion. That's all he needs.
I'm sure psychologists today would attribute that to some issue that occurred during his formative years from his mother. That who knows?
All right, there's nothing else I want to say about this one.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good too. Alrighty, folks. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven, and this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye. You've been listening to the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter under the handle @SoupsSuperShow. That's @SUPS Super Show. And continue the conversation at the Super Show Forum at forums.justanotherfanboy.com. We also encourage you to rate the show wherever available and share this podcast with a friend. All links will be in the show notes.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
So I've been reading the Dawn of DC books, or whatever they're calling that.
Yeah.
And I read Batman, whatever it is, 135/900 or 134, whatever. But Batman 900, the most recent Batman.
Okay.
Pooh.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, cat. Like dog, like donkey, like cow. Yeah.
Still Chip Zdarsky?
Yeah, but what it was the final chapter of his long-running story.
Really? That seems pretty quick.
Why flag that as Dawn of DC when it's the last part of a story?
That's right. I saw you tweet about. I wondered what comic you were talking about. I saw that tweet.
Yeah, that one.
That seems dumb.
I mean, now, being in the middle of the run of a book, that's one thing. Like, that's what they did with Catwoman.
Yeah.
But there had been some changes, and so it picked up, right after those major changes, and you're wondering, well, why is this person here and why is that person there? But the story started somewhere. It started in that situation.
Yeah.
Where here in the Batman story, it is ending, and you don't necessarily know what the next situation will be. What's up, Doug?
What's up, Doug? Yeah, I mean, something like the Dawn of DC, that I would figure would be considered a jumping on point.
Exactly.
So to have the jumping on point for somebody be at the end of a storyline seems kind of, but DC, as much as I have been enjoying new DC stuff more than new Marvel stuff, there have been some times I don't remember which event it was over the last couple of years, but I remember jumping into it. It's like, all right, well, I'll read the first issue of the event, and then it tells you, like, within the first page, go back and read this book and this book and this book and this book. And I'm like, no, I'm not reading that event because I don't want to have to read four books,
That's kind of not the point of doing things that way. What they're doing is they're double dipping, and it's like, well, no, that's not right. Yep. But what others, like Catwoman was in the middle of some Action Comics. Obviously, that's in the middle of something. Nightwing, Harley Quinn, but those all started for the Dawn of DC at a starting point. Whereas, like I said, this Batman is the final chapter of that particular story.
That's weird.
And
because even with Action Comics kind of being in the middle of something, it's almost, that's more of like it had just ended a storyline that opened up this new way for Superman to be. So
almost like a soft reboot, not a hard restart.
Yeah, you didn't necessarily have to go back and read that stuff to figure out what's going on with Superman at that point, but it wasn't just a complete reboot, but still for them to tag the last issue of a storyline just seems
I was very pissed. Very pissed.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me me for the burps. I read all three of these stories today. And I had at least one moment in each story where I went, or I cringed. One of them, though, was more, I think, on me. That I think it said a lot about me that I cringed at something. But
Oh, okay.
well, I'll just tell you, it's the name of that town, Gay Town. You know, it's like that meant something completely different back in 1940.
Yeah,
but,
and I'm not sure why that was picked as the name of the town. I don't think it was reflected in anything about the town. So I'm like, why?
Yeah, you don't see like a Gay Town, the happiest town in America, or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know,
so I'm like, why Gay Town? But okay, yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get to that one. But I don't think I'd noticed it before, but in that story, because they kept underlining Gay Town. Every time it came up, it was underlined. And I was like, have they always done that? But I noticed there was certain other things in the story that when they'd said it, they would underline it. So
yeah,
like proper nouns or something. I don't know. It was weird, but
well, like I know, like the name of a book you're supposed to underline, like when you write it. I wonder if it has something to do with that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe some leftover of doing stuff for newspapers back in the late 30s, early 40s. Maybe that's something.
Yeah. I mean, we know that they did their lettering and their word balloons. It's like from issue to issue, it's like they haven't come up with a standard way of lettering or any of that yet. So, you know, sometimes they have thought balloons. Sometimes they put their thoughts in parentheses, you know, in the middle of a word balloon. And so maybe that's just, that's their emphasis. Instead of bolding it, underline it.
Okay, here's something. If you share or open a file with a link, you may not see the names of people who view it. People you didn't invite individually will show up as anonymous animals when they're in the file. So does that mean that somebody has hacked that Google file? Is that what that would mean?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't see anything weird changed on it that, you know, we would say and it would be inappropriate or anything like that. So I only see up here at the top, I only see your image.
You're not. Do me a favor. Jump out of it real quick.
Okay, I've closed it.
It went away. It's you.
Because I'm not signed in.
Okay, that'll do it.
That's
you
what
got the
it was.
link. So anybody with the link can access it, but since you're not signed in, it comes up as Anonymous Jackalope. That's weird.
But I should be signed into Google. No, here it is. I'm not signed into Google. Okay, let me. Yeah, so you know Anonymous Jackalope. So if you ever see that, you know, whoever else has shared this, you're not logged in. You can't make changes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just Googled Google Doc Anonymous Jackalope, and that's what it told me. Like,
It's amazing how much you can find by Googling something.
Well, and probably a lot of people know it by now, but back in the day, it was a lot easier for me to find stuff on Google than a lot of other people because I came to the realization that Google was just a plain language search.
Yeah.
So you just type in the words directly that you're looking for, and that's when you would get the best results. It's not anything, you know, not anything special that you had to do to search. Just search it the way you think it.
Yep. I literally, when I'd search for something, I'd do it I'd literally type in the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does blah, blah, blah mean? Or why is my something not working?
Okay.
I usually have pretty good success doing that. There. Now I see your icon.
Yeah, I see yours. Okay. Sorry about that. But hey, we learned something.
Weird. Yeah. All right. Dang, now my freaking back is starting to hurt. That's not cool. But I have a little dinosaur with me.
All right. That'll make it better. Yeah.
If you were my grandson, you would be loving this right now.
Sorry to disappoint.
I have this little Spider-Man head, and I will, whenever we're doing FaceTime, I'll pop it in like this, and he just thinks it's so funny.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, those of you like Doug who have joined live. We officially haven't actually started recording our first episode yet, but I don't know what else to say.
I know. We can start recording it officially if you want.
Yeah, you ready?
I am now.
All right, let's do this. A little bit of iced coffee here. Ooh, strong stuff. All right. All right.
So that was issue 30. So I'll close that. And all right.
Let's see if we can get that was an hour.
Yep.
Let's just see if we can get these next 2 stories in the next hour, because
you know
that my earbuds will go out after 2 hours. So,
but you can't talk about the ages of comics in just 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a discussion that is.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Yep. All right. I'm ready to go. Are you good?
I'm ready to go.
Don't miss the next installment of Superman.